When you looked at the calendar 8 months ago and saw April 19th, could you have imagined back then that this would be anything but a finish line and it's kind of turned into a firewall?
You know, Matt, I said from the very beginning, this is going to be a tough contest all the way through. And I did it because I remember '08. You know, I went the distance with then Senator Obama. And that's the way primaries develop. Whoever it is that is going to, you know, make it through the preliminaries, the debates, the early contests, you're going to keep moving. And I said to everyone, you know, New York is going to be a place where I'm going to fight hard because I feel so strongly about it. But I never expected anything else.
But it means so much more right now because you have lost 7 of the last 8 contests. And you can tell how much is at stake because the exchanges between you and Senator Sanders are heating up. You talked about him, and someone asked you, was he ready to be president? You said, I think he hadn't done his homework. I think he'd been talking for more than a year about things he obviously hadn't really studied or understood. Do you think in some ways that Senator Sanders proposed some things early in this campaign that he didn't think he would stick around long enough to actually have to defend?
Well, you'll have to ask him, but what I was referring to there was the very long interview that he did with the New York Daily News. And I think a lot of people were quite taken aback that on key issues that he has been promoting during the entire campaign.
Breaking up banks.
Breaking up banks, foreign policy issues, that he did have some questionable answers. And look, that's fair game. Yeah, I've been in the bright, hot spotlight for a long time. I understand how that works. But I feel good about where the campaign is. We have a big lead, about 2.5 million over Senator Sanders. We have a significant delegate lead, and at the end of the day, that's what's going to matter.
He heard what you said. Whether you intended it to be cutting or biting or not, he said this about you in terms of whether you're qualified to be president. And I know you've heard this. I don't think you're qualified if you get $15 million from Wall Street sent through your super PAC. Now I'm paraphrasing. I don't think you're qualified if you voted for the disastrous war in Iraq and if you support trade agreements that cost millions of jobs to Americans. You don't have to read between the lines there. He said, came right out and said, he doesn't think you're qualified to be president.
Well, that'll be up to the voters of New York and the other states that will be passing judgment in the weeks ahead. I think it's kind of a silly statement, but he's free to say whatever he chooses.
Is he qualified to be president?
Well, here's what I believe. I believe that voters will be looking at both of us, but I will take Bernie Sanders over Donald Trump or Ted Cruz anytime. They pose real threats to our values, to groups of Americans, some very large groups like women, but so many people are hearing what's going on the Republican side and wondering, what is this about? How can we tolerate it?
I want to get to that, but has Senator Sanders, in your opinion, said or done anything during the course of this campaign or during the course of his career in the Senate that disqualifies him from being president of the United States?
I never said that about him.
I know, I'm asking.
I know, I never said that about him. His response to me was a misrepresentation of what I've said, but also kind of a historic amnesia, because on all of those issues, he supported President Obama, he supported Joe Biden as our vice presidential candidate, he supported John Kerry when he ran, and each one of them has, according to him, not been qualified. But I think in the heat of the campaign, of things. I want to stay focused on the issues. There are contrasts between us, and I think that's fair game.
Wisconsin was earlier in the week. I want to talk to you not about the results. I want to talk to you about some of the information that we received in exit polling. And some of these things keep repeating after certain contests. Bernie Sanders got 82% of the votes from people under the age of 30. 89% of people said they thought Bernie Sanders was basically honest. 58% said that about you, and this struck me. You are running to become perhaps an historic candidate.
Yes,
perhaps the first woman to be elected president.
Right.
And right now, if you look at Wisconsin, you basically split the women's vote with Senator Sanders. When you lay in bed at night, how do you get your arms around that?
I just think about it from a much broader perspective. I lost Wisconsin to Senator Obama by an even bigger margin, and I knew that I would have a tough fight going in. I actually came out very pleased with the number of delegates I got, and I am absolutely confident, Matt, that if I'm so fortunate as to secure the Democratic nomination, we will unify the Democratic Party, all parts of it. And I know that young people have been really caught up in Senator Sanders' campaign, and I think that's terrific, because the more young people we can bring into the process, particularly into the Democratic primary process, the better.
Let me share some conversations I've had with Republicans. And if I say to somebody on the Republican side, aren't you nervous about what's happening with this campaign and this division and what might happen to the convention? Do you know what I hear a lot? They are clinging to the hope that the way they'll be able to deal with that is that at some point between now and the election, and they say this, that they will get to see Hillary Clinton in handcuffs.
Oh, my
That there will
goodness.
be some kind of political perp walk based on your private.
Well, Matt, I know that they live in that world of fantasy and hope because they've got a mess on their hands on the Republican side. That is not going to happen. There is not even the remotest chance that is going to happen. But look, they've been after me, as I say, for 25 years, and they have said things about me repeatedly that have been proven to be not only false, but kind of ridiculous.
But you're a lawyer. You're a lawyer.
Right.
So how do you see this ending? Do you think the FBI and the Justice Department write you a letter and say it was a misunderstanding? We're sorry, carry on?
Well, we're certainly going to carry on. I think it's a security review. It is a security review, and there are lots of those that are conducted in our government all the time, and you don't hear about most of them. You hear about this one because, you know, it does involve me, so that's why it gets so much attention. But I will tell you, sitting here in the Bronx, in this cafe, we're moving forward. The Republicans' fondest wishes will not be fulfilled.
While you're in the predicting mood, let me end on this. You're sitting here in New York.
Right.
Famously, back in 1969, a guy named Joe Namath made a bold prediction. He said, we will win the Super Bowl.
Right.
Will you declare right now, that guarantee me you will win the New York primary on April 19th?
Well, I never make predictions, but I'm feeling really good that that's going to happen. But we have a lot of work to do, and that's what I'm out here doing every single day.
Confident but not